I like the Rogers branded product placement.
I hide it in front. Okay, yep, we're on.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We're here for a zoning application ZON-24-09, 3812 East Powell Road. Ms. Bonnie, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Trustee Ringgold?
Here.
Trustee Fels?
Here.
And Trustee Knapp? Here.
You all please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As I said, we're here to hear zoning application ZON-24-09. How the hearing will be conducted this evening is that we'll have a report from our Director of Zoning, staff report, and then we'll be able to ask questions as a board. We'll have our applicant, if they have a presentation, give their presentation. I'm sure the board will have additional questions, comments at that point, and then we will open up to the audience for public comment. I'll give some additional details about how we're going to conduct public comment when we get to that point in the meeting, and then we'll have some additional questions and comments from the board and then move forward at that point. So without further ado, turn the meeting over to our zoning director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are here to discuss rezoning case ZON-24-09 for a property located at 3812 East Powell Road, as well as 3784 and 3790 East Powell Road. That is two parcels in total that come up to 1.488 acres. The zoning is currently planned commercial and office district. The applicant is requesting to amend the currently effective planned commercial and office district development plan to allow for the operation of a marijuana dispensary and to allow for commercial and office uses on the site. The property was originally rezoned to planned commercial and office district in 2008. The development plan allowed for the operation of a daycare or child care facility on the property, but no other uses are currently permitted under the current development plan. As for how the property is referenced in our comprehensive plan, the site is located in sub-area 3 of the 2018 Orange Township Comprehensive Land Use Plan. Recommendation 3-6 reads that remainder areas, we recommend land use consistent with the existing zoning. The property is surrounded to the north, south, and west by the City of Columbus, and to the east by East Powell Road. Worthington Road is just to the south of the property as well. On that page, you can see the aerial of the site as well as the development plan proposed by the applicant. We do have these slides that we can focus on later in greater detail, but they are there for your reference. A brief summary of the applicant's amendment request. We'll start off with the current status of marijuana in Orange Township. On July 24, 2024, the Orange Township Board of Trustees passed Resolution 24-228, which amended and restated a previous resolution that prohibited cannabis dispensaries in the township. Resolution 24-228 permits up to 2 retail dispensaries in the township for medical or adult use cannabis. The resolution also states that for the purposes of the zoning resolution, a dispensary shall be considered a retail or commercial use. The Ohio Division of Cannabis Control requires that the local zoning authority, which in this case is Orange Township, sign a 10B form for a proposed dispensary, which indicates that the zoning for a given location either permits a cannabis dispensary or could be amended to permit a cannabis dispensary. Orange Township has signed off on a 10B form for a dispensary at this location, indicating that a dispensary could be located on the subject property, provided the zoning is approved. In terms of proposed uses for the development plan, the applicant is proposing to allow one of the existing buildings, labeled Building A, to be used as a marijuana dispensary. Because the previous development plan specified that the buildings on the property were to be used for childcare and educational purposes, therefore the development plan must be amended to establish the other uses as permitted uses. Building B on the site plan is proposed to permit a commercial and office establishment developed and maintained in accordance with the approved development plan. A potential building C, which was permitted under the previous development plan but never constructed, was included in a previous version of this application, but has been removed from the current proposal. Any future new buildings would require additional amendments of the plan district. The applicant has provided a list of prohibited uses, which include adult entertainment, auto-oriented uses, indoor or outdoor shooting ranges, impound junk or salvage yards, outdoor storage of boats, tractor trailers, or recreational vehicles, pawn shops, check cashing, or short-term loan establishments, skill game establishments, standalone drive-throughs, and storage or self-storage for rent to the public. Those would be prohibited under the development plan proposed by the applicant. However, generally other commercial and office uses would be permitted for Building B. Again, there are two buildings that are on the site currently. Old East Powell Road is a Class D road per the Orange Township zoning resolution, which is used to establish the setbacks. In the planned commercial district, this triggers a building setback of 50 feet. Existing buildings A and B do comply with this setback. The planned commercial and office district does not have standard side or rear setbacks. However, Section 21.10 of the Orange Township zoning resolution states that non-residential buildings or uses except parking shall not be located nor conducted closer than 100 feet to any lot line of a residential district. Because the surrounding parcels located within the city of Columbus are zoned residential, we believe that this does trigger that provision. The applicant has therefore requested two divergences from this provision for Building B, which is set back 30 feet from the residential lot line, as well as the three small structures associated with the cell tower on Parcel 2, which is approximately 2 feet from the residential lot line. The maximum building height is proposed to be 36.7 feet from finished grade. Each building contains 6,648 square feet. The maximum lot coverage is proposed to be 75% of maximum impervious surfaces, which does comply with the requirements of the planned commercial district. For parking, a total of 59 parking spaces currently exist on the site. The dispensary as a retail use would require 22 spaces based on the square footage of the buildings. This would leave 37 extra spaces for future use or overflow. The existing parking spaces on the site are 9 by 18 feet, which is less than the requirements of the zoning resolution. The requirements are that parking spaces be at least 9 by 20. The applicant has requested a divergence from this provision as those parking spaces are existing currently. For landscaping, 7 existing trees on the property would remain, as would 8 existing trees that appear to be located on the neighboring property. The applicant is also proposing to add new landscaping screening along the northern and eastern property lines, as well as a new fence around those property lines. New shrubbery would also be added around buildings A and B. Landscape plans specify 2 additional deciduous trees, 14 coniferous evergreen trees, 13 deciduous shrubs, 9 grasses, and 175 small ground cover plants to be planted in addition to what is existing. For lighting, both wall-mounted and pole-mounted lighting fixtures are proposed. Per the zoning resolution, the maximum horizontal foot candles at grade beyond the property line that abuts a residential district is 0.4 foot candles. According to the lighting plan provided by the applicant, there is a small section along the eastern property line where this limit is exceeded. 2 points on the lighting plan are identified as 1.0 foot candles. We do believe an additional divergence would be required for this for a foot candle level higher than what is required. However, given the parking lot configuration and the fact that Section 21.12 D6 of the zoning resolution requires that exterior lighting is provided for all vehicular use areas, we do believe a divergence is reasonable in this case, but the board should be aware of this discrepancy. For signage, the applicant has included a signage plan that proposes that the existing monument-style sign on the property would be refaced with a total display area of 16 square feet. 1 wall-mounted sign is proposed for Building A, which would be a total of 36.09 square feet and mounted at 11.5 feet from finished grade to the top of the sign, which does comply with the regulations of Article 22 of the zoning resolution, which is our signage article. The applicant is also proposing up to 4 no loitering signs, each of which would be no more than 2 square feet, must be in neutral colors, and would not require permits. This would be a divergence to allow those signs without a permit. The application notes that any other signage required by the Ohio Department of Cannabis Control is exempt from the requirements of the zoning resolution. So to sum up, for divergences, a total of 4 are being requested with 1 additional divergence identified by staff review. The four are a divergence from section 21.10 to reduce the setback for building B to 30 feet from the property line, to reduce the setback for the existing utility structures to 2 feet from the property line, to reduce the setback for potential building C to 25 feet from the property line, and to waive the landscaping or screening requirement from that area. Divergence from section 21.01, parking spaces are proposed to be 9 by 18 feet instead of 9 by 20. Divergence from Article 22, proposing to allow up to 4 no loitering signs without a permit, and to allow any other state-required signage to be exempt from the requirements of Article 22. Divergence from Section 14.06, to allow future proposed uses to be established without rezoning if they meet the definition of commercial and office establishments of all types developed and maintained in accordance with the approved development plan, minus the included list of prohibited uses, which I read earlier. We do believe that this divergence would not be necessary. One additional divergence would be required again to allow those foot candle levels that exceed the maximum limit at the eastern property line, but not to exceed 1.0 foot candles per the lighting plan submitted. As for review from other agencies, as a use-based amendment to the plan district with no additional construction proposed at this time, the Delaware County Regional Planning Commission did not review this application. The Orange Township Zoning Commission did recommend approval with modifications with a 3-2 vote at their meeting on January 14th, 2025. They required 5 modifications as part of their approval recommendations. We do note that the applicant has complied with all 5 of those modifications in their updated package. That is all I have for the staff report. Happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Any questions at this time from the board? All right, thank you, Mr. Duffy. Does the applicant have a presentation that they'd like to make?
Yes, we do. Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to appear in front of you today. My name is Greg Gorospe. I'm one of the attorneys for the applicant. This is, as mentioned, for 3812 East Powell Road. The applicant is Ohio Patient Access, which will be doing business as Ascend Wellness Holdings. You can go on to the next slide. So the proposed site you saw in...
I don't have, do I have a digital copy of this one? This is different from what I have in front of me.
That was what was sent to me earlier.
Yes, yeah, so I don't have this one on the screen.
You don't have that one on the screen? Okay.
Bring
All
a
right.
USB card.
We have a thumb drive.
Yep.
I will need a second. Okay, I'm not allowed to put it in that one. I'll do this one.
While we're waiting for that to load, I'll just go on with some general comments. So the evolution of this project started off, there's been a lot of discussions between the township and the applicant. The applicant, very upfront about what the use was originally and wanted to cooperate in all ways with the township. This did go in front of the Planning Commission. At that time, there was a yes vote from the commission, and we were told that they would like some modifications to be made. To make those modifications, even though the prior development plan had allowed an additional building to be located on the site, we agreed just to lose that complication. So we've erased that planned building C from our application currently. That got rid of a number of divergences from the zoning plan. In addition, on the picture you can see above, they had requested that we add some additional screening and fencing. If you look at the brown areas on the photo, those are the additional areas where the screening and fencing will go. We did that on the south and west side. Or is that the north? That's the north and west, north and east side. North and east side. There is already currently a fence along the south side. Unfortunately, because where the parking is located and some of the cell tower structures, we're not able to put anything additional on the west side, but we tried to add as much screening as we possibly could. In addition, we also took the lighting plan, made some modifications to that, and we made some slight modifications to the signage and made clear that the building signage would be fully compliant with the code. There are 3 criteria for approval of the development plan that you'll hear today. One of those is that whether the proposed development is consistent in all respects with the purposes, intent, and general standards of the zoning resolution. You'll hear that it is. Secondly, whether the proposed development is in conformity with the comprehensive plan or the, such portion thereof as may apply. It is. And then whether the proposed development advances the general welfare of the township and the immediate vicinity, and you'll see that it does. With me today are Eric Kometz from Ohio Patient Access. So he'll be the, Ohio Patient Access will be the owner of the building. The operator will be Ascend Wellness Holdings, and Kathleen Olivastro is with us today to speak for the operator. Eric, why don't you come on up?
Sure. Is that teed up now? Is it the correct?
No, not yet.
Okay. Are we working on it? Should I wait, or should I just go forward with my presentation?
Just waiting for the email.
That's fine.
Does the loaded presentation happen to have any of the same slides?
Does loaded presentation have any of the same slides?
The key drive, thumb drive should have those.
Yeah, we can't use, the thumb drive security, it won't let us use them, so he needs to email it to me.
I've spoken without notes and without slides before.
You can try.
I can do it again.
Okay. I just got it, if the board is okay waiting a minute, I can try to upload it. Sure. Okay.
No pressure.
Michelle, it's in the Dropbox now.
Okay.
That matches what I have.
Yes, sorry about that.
Can
Thank
we go, go one more slide? Can you go one more slide? Yes, stop right here.
Apologies for that.
Hi, my name is Eric Kometz. I live at 7720 Campus Lane, that's down in Montgomery, Ohio. And I'm the property owner and the owner of the business. I was born and raised in Canton, Ohio. When I was 25 years old, I lost my brother to testicular cancer. Years later, I lost my mom to brain cancer. I watched both of them fight for years and go through what I'm sure many know is a very painful and uncertain chemotherapy process that they ultimately lost. Since that time, the state of Ohio has recognized the conditions that they had, along with more than 20 other qualifying conditions, are conditions that are acceptable to be treated in Ohio with cannabis. I grew up with a father who was a surgeon. My mom was a teacher, an elementary teacher. Cannabis had a stigma when I grew up, and it was nothing that you could talk about in our house. Not to mention it was illegal, so any discussions of cannabis to potentially help alleviate any of the pain that they were going through was conversations that we just did not have. Go on to the next slide. This past year, my team and I received confirmation from the Division of Cannabis Control that we are set to receive a license to dispense cannabis. This set off a process for us to find an adequate site that satisfied state and local regulations regarding buffer restrictions. We had to be 500 feet away from a church, school, park, library, et cetera, and we had to be 1 mile away from any other intended or existing dispensary. And also, we had to locate in a municipality that did not have any moratorium on cannabis dispensing. Go to the next slide. I had heard at that time that Orange Township had drafted an ordinance that would permit a limited number of dispensaries in the township. So I attended the trustee meeting that was held last July, where this issue was voted on, approved, and the site that's in question today was raised, discussed, and it was stated at that meeting that it would make sense to have a dispensary over by Polaris. The Orange Township Zoning Office had signed a notice of proper zoning form, which I had submitted to the state. The state then accepted this site and soon issued me a provisional license. Go to the next slide. That began a process when I started communicating with township leadership. Put together site plans, architectural plans, landscape plans, had communication to learn what would be needed and acceptable in order to lift the restriction that was on the site for a daycare. I had the property under option, went through very many rounds of going back and forth, making adjustments to make sure that we address the concerns of this community. Near the end of the option period, I had reached out to see if there was any further concerns, and I was assured that there were not, and that if the zoning board provided a recommendation, I could rely upon that to go forward and purchase the property. On January 14th, we had the zoning board meeting, and while there was community concerns, the zoning board provided that recommendation. The following day, my option was expiring on the property. I reached out to township leadership, who provided further assurances that it would be okay to move forward and close on this property. So subsequently,